Hi lovely viewers, it's me again, your one and only Mutati Mpundu. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my channel, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the red subscribe button down below and turn the bell icon to join the notification squad. Don't forget to like, share and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you lovely viewers.
Thank you very much for that very powerful prayer. Members of the press, members of Central Committee present, and fellow Zambians wherever you are catching us from. I'm honored on behalf of Patriotic Front to address the press and through the press the Zambian people. I must begin by stating that as Patriotic Front, we fully endorse the statement by the Catholic bishops on the state of the nation through the pastoral letter released on Saturday. The position of the Catholic Church through the pastoral letter reflects the true situation in the country. We are here to cement the position of the Catholic Church and all clergy who have gathered courage to defend in defense of the suffering poor masses in fulfilling the duty to, their duty to social justice. Last week, we wrote a letter to Honorable Chief Justice Marila, and in that letter, which has been made public because it involves the justice system of our nation, we were asking the Chief Justice whether he, in view of what has been happening, has deliberately subjugated or absconded his role in providing impartial leadership to this arm of government that is very crucial. The judiciary is the anchor of democracy and development. It even gives confidence to investors and development partners, because how does anyone invest in a banana republic? And obviously the signs seem to suggest that we are headed, if not that we are already there, to be classified as a banana republic. How can somebody invest in a country where the law is not respected, where your investment is not safe, and in case of disputes, you are not guaranteed of justice? Because justice seemingly is only served to those who are from the ruling party, or those that are in close proximity to State House or Community House. Under Nakachinda's leadership, Zambia now has become a laughingstock in the Commonwealth and the region to which we are affiliated to. In 2021, we had already sounded the warning that the route the UPND are taking, looking at the signs of some of the steps we are taking, the judiciary was under threat. Take, for example, the saga of the KCM, where the president attempted to negotiate with the then liquidator and even offered immunities and all those things. Instead of it being done transparently, clearly it was anchored on deceit. When that was exposed, the president himself decided to deny ever having contact with the then liquidator Miringo. What followed was that all the commitments that were made were abrogated. And they decided to sacrifice a professional judicial officer in the name of Lillian Siuni Shawa, who was then DPP of the Republic of Zambia. Even when the process was clearly illegal, but they proceeded to have her hounded out. As it were, it was very clear that there was an agenda that the UPND and Nakachinda had towards KCM because before the elections, there were revelations of finances being offered to the UPND for campaigns. And Nakachinda attempted to deny. At some point, more than once, he said, we are not going to give KCM back to Vendetta. But the reality today is something else. We are also grappling with a situation where a mine that the Patriotic Front under the leadership of President Edgar Chagalungu gathered courage to take or repossess when the then owners decided to abandon because of their own challenges globally, where they were being pursued for fraud and so on, and Mopani was also being affected. We took a bold step knowing that the investment in that mine was good enough for us to be able to run it for over 30 years without having challenges. And in a short period of time that Zambia and Zambians were running that mine, the mine was posting profit, paying all the suppliers and paying the workers. There was no justification for us to start looking for a foreigner, save for the fact that if we were patriotic enough, as if the UPND were patriotic enough, they would have been looking for Zambians to look for operation capital, because that's the only thing that was required. But as it were, today we have on our laps a scandal of having no clear explanation from government on what has happened and what the transaction around Mopani means. The Minister of Mines has been struggling in Parliament to answer questions in that regard. We are very concerned about the incidences that are happening around the judiciary and its leadership. The greatest currency for any judiciary is self-respect and integrity. Once those who are in the judiciary are seen to have thrown away these virtues, then forget, the country is headed for chaos. Today, Zambia is the most laughed at country because of the issues that seem to be surrounding the operation of the judiciary. And of course, on moral grounds, you expect the leader of the judiciary, if he feels that he is not in a position to provide proper leadership because of interference and is being undermined, he can only but step aside by resigning. Look at how those who are associated with Patriotic Front or are in the leadership of Patriotic Front are treated before the law. Even when it comes to issues of the forfeiture of properties, the due process raises, the process being undertaken raises many questions around whether or not the due process has been undertaken. It's like the judiciary is just being used as a way of wanting to grab properties, most of which, if not all of them, legitimately acquired, because there has never been a process that has answered the question of whether those properties were legitimately acquired. It's like somebody just points, this property, you don't deserve it, to get it, but to use the judiciary as a way of justifying of getting it. Today, as Patriotic Front Secretary General, and knowing that there's going to be change of government in 2026, I want to assure those whose properties have been grabbed through these clearly, stage managed processes, be assured that your properties that you acquired legitimately will be given back. And I also want to say to the Zambian people and others that very soon they will begin to auction properties either to themselves or to others please don't dare attempt to acquire these properties, because you end up being inconvenienced after 2026. It is important that all of us respect the rule of law. If what you want to acquire did not come by way of a proper due process of the law, and you go ahead to acquire that property, you become an accomplice and you end up being inconvenienced. Let me talk about the respect for the rule of law and give one classical example on a leadership that respected the rule of law. Zambia has been respected even during one party state under Dr. Kaunda. Those who can recall the late Republican President KK, Dr. Kaunda's son, Kambarange Mpundu Kaunda, was at one point found in having done something against the law. He went through the due process, and he was even sentenced to death by hanging by High Court Judge Clever Musumali without any interference from his father, who was president then, or anybody else. That is what it means to have respect for the rule of law. Today you can't say, you can't even put the UPND near that kind of standard. Because today we have two classes of citizens. The other class is that which belongs to the ruling elite, the UPND, who can do anything with impunity, but they will never face the law because they are protected. But there is another class of citizens who are perceived to be associated by the opposition, particularly by Patriotic Front. You don't have to commit an offense. All you need is to criticize this government. You'll be arrested, and they'll find a way in which you can be inconvenienced and possibly sent to jail. The president at the time, Dr. Kaunda, like I've said, did not interfere with the court process to save his son, because the justice system was independent, despite it being under a heavy hand of a one-party state. There was a bit of dissent even when it was a one-party state. We are not witnessing that today. Let me talk about democratic elections. Once more, we congratulate countries in the SADC region where change of government has taken place. The people of Botswana and Mauritius have peacefully transitioned governments, notwithstanding how those governments tried to compromise the judicial and government systems and persecute opposition and their predecessors in terms of presidents to try and maintain or retain power. The people rejected them and they were removed. And this is supposed to be a lesson for our friends in government today. The recent elections in America, where we saw President-elect Donald Trump emerge as winner despite Joe Biden launching a campaign to prosecute, persecute, and disqualify Mr. Trump by using the judicial system or the justice system. They launched a propaganda campaign against him. This must be a lesson specifically for Ms. Nakachinda and the judiciary, that the entire focus is on them during this period, especially that there are cases like the eligibility case that involves the former president. I want to advise, as a patriotic Zambian, that I think there are lessons, these lessons are bound for the judiciary in Zambia and the UPND. Look at how a former president was treated in Botswana. Even when he was in foreign land, he was able to participate remotely, and today there is a change of government. Trump, they attempted to prosecute him and disqualify him, but the will of the people still prevailed. He has retained power. In 2026, it doesn't matter the Mingarato, Misaka in the Ichilema you are undertaking. What will prevail in 2026 is the will of the Zambian people, not your Mingarato. First of all, you are not God. Two, you are not in control of the minds of the Zambian people and what their decision is. And to that effect, 2026, you have no control. You may manipulate a few, but you will not be able to manipulate the 20 million Zambians who are suffering today. And therefore, we are confident that the will of the people and the will of God will prevail in 2026. And interesting, if you follow the speech by Vice President Kamala Harris when she was conceding defeat, and allow me to quote what she said. She said, and I quote, "A fundamental principle of America's democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from a monarch or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States, and loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I'm here to say," as she said, while I concede this election, I do not concede my allegiance to the fundamental ideals of democracy, where the winner at the end of it all are the people who own the ultimate decision to decide. We will defend democracy and the rule of law across the world. End of quote. Though that fundamental statement, I think, must be repeated to Ms. Nakachinda several times, that in a democracy you must be prepared to concede defeat if you are really a Democrat. And you must be loyal to the Constitution and not loyal to Mingarato and deceit and fraudulent arrangements. That seems to be the mantra for UPND and their leader. The moral lesson by her statement to the Zambian politician is that constitutional office orders the judicial system that the loyalty of state institutions is not to an individual but to the constitution of the land. The sitting government in America wanted to portray a very wrong picture about President Donald Trump, just like it is here in Zambia, where the government system and the UPN want to create a wrong picture of President Edgar Chagwa. They gave Trump a lot of charges, including felonies. This is a similar case, as it were, in Zambia. And therefore, we call upon people to summon their conscience and be objective in looking at the way things must run. We may hate, people may hate PF or President Lungu, but we want to say he has a right to participate in our democracy in this country. I can imagine those judges who were influenced to persecute and lay charges against General Ian Kama in Botswana. What is happening today? Those who were influenced to persecute Donald Trump, what is happening today? You can't wish Edgar Chagwa away. And I can only but warn those in the judiciary. The day of reckoning is coming for all of us, for the actions and decisions that we will have made. None of us will do those things without ever accounting for them. For the eligibility case, we are very confident that a court that reaffirmed the position more than 6 times, there is no way they can change that position today. That will be the end of the judiciary. Because the judiciary is expected to be consistent, for it to be respected and honored. It is sacred, it should not be interfered with by anybody, not even the executive. So we are approaching the 10th of December with a lot of confidence, and the Zambian people too have expressed a lot of confidence that President Edgar Chagwa will be declared eligible. And it is only fair that Mr. Hakainde Hichilema must face Mr. Hakainde Hichilema and Edgar Chagwa and others, and let them be defeated at a ballot than to manipulate systems to try and defranchise them. That's the only way that our democracy can thrive. And if he is as confident as they are saying that they have performed, there is no need to be afraid. The conduct of the ECZ. Another state institution that is being abused is the ECZ. The ECZ has gone ahead to call for by-elections when matters have not been concluded or exhausted in court. The case in question is the council chairperson's election in Kawambwa. And now the parliamentary by-election that has been called again in Kawambwa. We all know that there is a stay subsisting on those two seats, the council chairperson's seat as well as the parliamentary seat. But the ECZ has proceeded in total disrespect and disregard to the judiciary and the courts to call for these by-elections. As PF, through our elected member of parliament, Nixon Chilangwa, have proceeded to have those officers and commissioners cited for contempt, and processes and papers are going to be filed in. But because we have learned our lessons that under the UPND government, even when the law and the courts have made orders, they have the appetite for impunity to proceed against the law, to proceed against court orders. We are also preparing as PF to go and participate in that by-elections through the Tonse Alliance, and we're going to feature one candidate, and the Tonse Alliance will participate in that by-election, and we are determined to win that by-election. The way the ECZ have been conducting themselves goes to show that ECZ in its current form cannot pretend over a free and fair elections. They have already taken a partisan position. We are not surprised, since the majority of them are just cadres of UPND who openly wore UPND party regalia and still do. A time is coming for each one of them to be answerable and accountable for all their deliberate and calculated conduct. The responsibility placed on ECZ in the past and future is beyond personal, individual and partisan interests. It is to the fulfillment of constitutional requirements and democratic electoral process as a global citizen would expect. So anything that happens to our peace and security, they will also be answerable, because the moment the will of the people is subjugated, usually it leads to chaos. And we are sending a timely warning. For the sake of the peace of this country, may we have the ECZ restored to order by removing those cadres from ECZ.
Yes.
The electoral reforms that the ECZ wants to undertake. Amendments being proposed by the UPND are not in good faith, but they are meant to perpetuate injustice. Electoral Reforms Technical Committee under ECZ is first of all illegal. The only arm of government that can initiate any amendments to the law is executive through the Ministry of Justice. But they are to undertake those activities through a broad-based consultative process, not to have a commission having to undertake such a process is not provided for by the law. It's against the Constitution. And therefore we demand that those processes being undertaken be stopped forthwith. They are illegal. ECZ has no locus to undertake such reforms, and we know they are orchestrated by UPND to try and give themselves an advantage. This also goes to what has now been initiated, the issue of amending the penal code to advantage the UPND to victimize people with the issue of hate speech, which must be rejected by all well-meaning Zambians. And we are glad that the Catholic Church has also added their voice that the UPND government must stop this undertaking that is already going through Parliament. Because we know, like I said earlier, that Zambia has now two classes of people. The Zambezi region are the first class and are saints. For them, the crime of hate speech is not applicable. We can have people in Northwestern Province insult a former president. Even when their complaints lodged at the police, they will never be arrested. But there are those from other regions and those associated with Patriotic Front. Even when you are just providing checks and balances and demanding for answers, it is classified as hate speech. You will quickly be arrested and thrown in jail. And now there's even a new, position of government where the president pronounced that don't give them bail. And it looks like the judiciary is also complying with such pronouncements. Today we're having people who have appealed, but when they apply for bail, they are being denied. It's very, very unfortunate. As I conclude my message to Patriotic Front, to our party, President Lungu is contesting elections in 2026. Do not despair. So I'm urging our party members to mobilize and organize ourselves for the elections of 2026. We know there are small people coming to you with small tricks, some of them, if not all of them, being used by UPND. The Tonse Alliance has adopted our party president as a candidate for the 2026 elections. We must all prepare for the candidature of President Edgar Chagalungu, and don't mind what you hear, these baseless lies that are coming from the UPND. We have come through more united, and the party needs you now more than ever. The task ahead is huge and is before us. It may be tough, but simple, and we will cross over to the other side. Our first responsibility as people who are loyal opposition is to hold the government to account. Our second is no less important. It is to prepare ourselves for the cause of having a proper democratic election in 2026 and be ready to form government. And therefore, I urge members of Patriotic Front, don't allow anybody to mislead you. We are marching in unity towards 2026, and the elections of 2026 have already been offered by the Zambian people to the opposition, particularly Patriotic Front. We know of the mingaratos that UPND are undertaking by interfering with Patriotic Front, but I can assure you that we have, by God's grace, enough wisdom to navigate through those mingaratos. After all, the Patriotic Front is not those papers at the Registry of Societies. That is just but a paper. The Patriotic Front are the members across the country and the supporters and sympathizers of the spirit and the ideology of Patriotic Front. And therefore, those are the ones that we're going to march with in 2026. And we will march and be able to participate, regardless of what they do at Registrar of Society. Mr. Nakachinda is like somebody, I have a metaphor of a man who built a house which had no wall fence, but he built a gate. So every evening he would lock the gate and enter his house. He convinced himself that by locking that gate, he was actually very secure. not knowing that it was just a gate that he was locking and opening every morning. The surrounding of his house was actually vulnerable and open. Mr. Nakachinda Ichilema thinks that by interfering with the Registrar of Society, he has locked the gate and is secure, without knowing that the entire surrounding of the UPND is open. There is no offense, and we know how we are going to navigate towards 2026. Thank you very much, and God bless. Thank you very much, Mr. Blessing from Crown TV. Like we said, we have understood and studied the mingaratos of UPND and how they are abusing, whether it is ECZ, Registrar of Society, and other institutions. And therefore, wisdom demands that some of the things you will see them manifest without us having to declare everything openly. But I can assure you, a candidate will fall in the Kaambwa by-election if the court do not help to correct this illegality by stopping that by-election. And we are going full force as a Tonse Alliance platform to go and have that seat won back to the opposition through Patriotic Front participating under the Tonse Alliance. Thank you very much.
Alright, that's all for you today, lovely viewers. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about the video you just watched in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you, lovely viewers. Once again, I go by the name of Mutati Mpundu. I love you, peace, I gotta go.